Good afternoon and welcome to the OPTIBIOTIX Health PLC investor presentation. Throughout this recorded presentation, investors will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and they can be submitted at any time using the Q&A tab situated in the right-hand corner of your screen. Simply type in your questions and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question it receives during the meeting itself. However, the company can review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. Before we begin, I would like to submit the following poll. And I would now like to hand you over to CEO Stephen O'Hara. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Alex, and thanks very much for the introduction. So my name is Stephen O'Hara, as Alex said. I'm the founder and CEO of OPTIBIOTIX Health PLC. And today I'm just going to give you a commercial update, really looking forward to 2024 and trying to set the scene. We had a difficult 2022. We recovered very much in 2023. We got a lot of good stories to tell for 2024. A changing environment in terms of the changes in terms of the anti-obesity drugs, the strategy we set out to expand into Asia and into the USA, bringing on some really big partners, and also our strategy to go more down the e-commerce route. And I'll try to explain the reasons why. And then finally, I'll talk about the second generation products. That'll be fairly brief. So I want to do a separate presentation on that. At this moment in time, we've got a lot of really good commercial discussions taking place. And you know, we have some big partners, the US company and also DSM Firmenich. I have to be very careful in terms of the sensitivities, because I don't want to get to situations similar to we did with Tata a number of years or so ago, where people, after a presentation similar to this, guessed it could be Tata. I had people phone up Tata both in the UK and India, pretending to be OPTIBIOTIX and trying to find out inside information. So I'm always cautious since then. So I hope you find it useful. And a bit like today, actually, it's been a bright day today, and I think we've got a bright future ahead of us in OPTIBIOTIX. But I'll let you decide that after the presentation. So I just want to start off with the story so far. So this is very much for those new investors or people might be interested in joining OPTIBIOTIX. And just a refresher for those who sort of drop in and drop out. So we listed in 2014 at 8 pence per share, market cap just over 5 million. And since then, currently the SP is around about 18%, so sorry, 18p. So up around about 125% and had a market cap around 18 million. So up around 240%, but lots of peaks and troughs along the way, which 2022 was the trough, and some of the earlier years were the peaks. But I think now we're in a very good position going forward. And if you look at 2023 last year, on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see that OPTIBIOTIX was one of the best performing shares on AIM in 2023. But just also consider 2023 was a pretty poor market for small caps. I just sense now we're coming out of that, and I hope that 2024 in particular, the latter half of it, particularly if you can show strong growth from some interesting partners, both in terms of the first generation, second generation, really get SP moving. I think most people know we have 3 subsidiaries. One is what we're talking about today, which is the prebiotic subsidiary, where prebiotic uses those materials to actually change the growth rate of organisms, to change the microbiome. Skin Biotherapeutics, which I also founded and put on the stock market back in 2019. We as a company invested 700k, and so far we've taken out 5.5 million pounds worth of skin shares. So that means we haven't had to dilute OPTIBIOTIX shareholders in OPTIBIOTIX by selling shares in skin. And we have a current value of about 3 million pounds in Skin Biotherapeutics. Probiotics, again, founded Probiotics. I put that on the stock market, the Aquis market, in 2022. We did about a dividend to the specie, about 50% of the shares. So we own 44%, OPTIBIOTIX, I own about 5%. So total around about 49%. And we have a current value now of 2.2 million. But that, to me, is one of the most undervalued shares on any stock market. And there's a range of reasons for that, which I'll maybe come to later on and I'll pick up on some of the questions. So moving on, this is just a graphical representation of what I've just described in terms of the three parts of the company and some of the products that we have. I just want to just set the scene in terms of the strategy, but also focus more really on the commercials. So in terms of the strategy, just to remind people that we were creating a company that had different aspects to it, which gave us multiple shots on goal at in the microbiome space, which was a new space. Okay, so multiple opportunities. That's why we've got Probiotics Health PLC, Skin Biotherapeutics, and OPTIBIOTIX Health PLC. But I really want to focus more on the commercials and what the commercial strategy has been and how it's evolving. So to put a product on the market, particularly globally, typically and market it would typically cost 20 to 30 million. We haven't raised that type of money. So what we've done, we've used a B2B strategy. So this means you work with distributors, and the distributors take the products to you for you onto the marketplace, and there's some value in that. In the early stages, you can't really attract the larger companies because you need the IP in place, and you can't have the IP in place until you have the studies in place, and you can't have the studies in place until the science is there. So we're now in a good position in terms of having the science in place, the studies in place, the IP in place. We've seen over the last year or so, we've attracted some really big partners, the iBates of this world, the Dr. Moorpens of this world, the hack groups of this world. And we're starting, and we'll see as you go further forward, more of these large partners who have quite large and detailed requirements before you take on a product, not least being a regulatory approvals for multiple countries. And so what we try to do is build the first generation products in terms of sales, and in parallel de-risk the second generation products. So the first generation are there to get us into a position where if all else fails, we'll be a profitable company and be worth a high degree of value. We get the second generation products in the marketplace, which we will this year, then we will have a very high value because they're the added extra if you like. And what I also want to bring out is that we're moving more and more towards a final product provider. We're focusing more on e-commerce and also on those very large growth markets in Asia and the world's biggest market, the USA. And I'll go through the reasons why for that in the next few slides. So this is our strategy, okay, in terms of the rationale behind being a finished product provider. So if you take Slim Biome and Wellbo, okay, we have a number of manufacturing partners in the UK, Europe, India, America, and Asia. So we get those manufacturing partners to produce a product, and we sell those that raw ingredient to distributors, or we sell it to people like the Head Group or to Holland Barrett. Okay, so we sell the ingredient, okay, and that gives us revenue. We also have a number of partners around the world who actually make final product, again in UK, Europe, India, the US, and Asia. And so they turn our ingredient into the gummies, into the bars, into the shakes, etc. Now, if we can sell those directly ourselves, we get the sale of the raw ingredient in those products and the sale of that final product. We get a double sale. Okay, and I'll show you some examples of those as we go forward in the future. Maybe the best one being Dr. Moorpen. We sell those via distribution partners. So, for example, we will sell final product to a Nardi in the Gulf, and we also occasionally sell final product to retailers. Okay, but ideally, we want to be selling those into e-commerce channels. And why is that? The reason we want to sell via e-commerce, it's all about margins, okay, and through the different sales channels. So this is a slide. It's not using any particular product that we have, but it's using typical margins for each of these channels for similar type of products. And so if you look through the columns, you've got cost, that's the cost producing the product, the sale price, and the margin in pounds, and the percentage margin. So if we produce the ingredient, okay, and we sell that to a distributor, okay, then typically we'll make it for £8 and sell it for £30, Okay, so that's selling the ingredient, a good margin at £22. If we sell the final product, to a distributor, such as Nargi, who then sells it on, we'll make it for £3, sell it for £10, and the margin is about £7. Again, quite a high percentage margin. If we sell to a retailer, by a retailer, I mean these large retailers like your Holland and Barrett, like your Sainsbury's, your Tesco's, etc., like your Boots, and even some of the European retailers, we'll make it for £3 and we'll sell it for £6. Okay, so our margin is much reduced. But if we sell it by an e-commerce channel, we make it for £3, okay, and we sell it for £30, so much higher margin. So you might ask, well, why would you sell an ingredient? Why would you sell via retailers? So a couple of points to bring out here. If we sell the final product, okay, we have two sales, as I mentioned earlier, the ingredient that goes in the final product and a product sale. And also, as I touched on earlier, if you sell via distributors, they bring an understanding of the marketplace, and each marketplace is unique where they go to, and we'll come to the Asian ones, but USA's are unique and they're different concentrations of the various ingredients within Slim Biome. They have their own customer network, but we tend to lose visibility of what's going on. So there's a plus side, but also a downside. You haven't got a clue what's going on many of these occasions. On occasions, they will say things about our product which will be frankly untrue. Okay, there'll be misrepresentations. We've got to be very careful of that, and particularly if they're in places where they speak in a different language, then who's to know what they're saying? And I'll give an example of that shortly. And why go by retailers? So retailers give you, in essence, so their strategy is they sell you shelf space, but they bring volume usually, and they bring a large customer base. And they probably, most importantly of all, they bring brand credibility. The challenge with them, they are very demanding and have very poor payment terms. Okay, so what we're trying to do is move away from selling ingredient to manufacturers or distributors, ingredient to distributors, and selling more final products, and move more and more to a final product solution, particularly via the e-commerce sales channels. But we'll still have a mix, okay? We'll still have that mix according to where the opportunities lie and the markets we're going to, because some markets, particularly in the US, is very difficult to sell final product, because each of the large companies, companies want to have their own manufacturers, and they buy an ingredient and use their final product. So this is some examples of what you get in terms of distributors. Okay, if you get 10 minutes over the week ahead, just click on this YouTube video and you'll have quite a decent laugh. Around about 6 minutes 55 seconds, you'll hear what they say about Slim Biome. You get a sense of what they've said because you've got a picture with me and Princess Eugenie, which is totally made up and all about using Slim Biome to help Princess Eugenie lose 40 kilograms prior to a wedding. All this is totally fabricated, as is all the pictures, okay? And this is sort of typical payment terms that we get with retailer, okay? So a couple of things. So in terms of invoicing, it's typically within 90 days from the end of the month in which the customer received the invoice. So if they receive the invoice on May the 1st, it'll be 90 days from the end of May, okay? So 120 days. Even then, you tend not to pay then another 60 days on from that. But the interesting thing here is this part of it. The supplier is not entitled to spend deliveries of the goods as a result of any sums being outstanding. So they haven't paid us, we've still got a supplier. So these are actual payment terms that we've seen from a retailer. The other interesting thing, okay, is this part here, okay, is that the customer can terminate the contract in whole or in part by giving notice to the supplier at any time prior to delivery. Okay, so they can order a product, we can produce it, we can go to deliver it, and they say we don't want it anymore. And I've seen that happen a few times, thankfully not to OPTIBIOTIX. So these are risks that you face when you go via a distributor, particularly in some countries, Asia being a prime example, unless you get the right distributor. And these are some of the risks that you face when you go via retailers. After saying all of that, there are some retailers and some terms and some markets when it is worth it, to give you that brand recognition, to give you that credibility. And that's all about making judgments in each area. Well, this is another one. This is quite interesting because they changed their priorities. So we spoke to Boots last year, very, very keen to get our product on their store, on their marketplace, and then into their stores. And some months later, then they decided that for the time being, they're not going to launch their online marketplace. So what you're finding with a lot of these stores, whether it's Walmart, whether it's Costco, whether it's Superdrug, is that they're building their own online marketplace. And Boots is a little bit behind many others, and they've experienced some difficulties. We will be on Boots at some point in the future. I suspect we'll also be on Superdrug, as we are in Walmart. But these are the online marketplaces which are starting to gain some traction above and beyond the Amazons of this world. But I use it to give an example of no matter what we're told and what I tell investors, things can change in a matter of days, hours. I don't often get updated in terms of those changes. So those are the risks. I think most of you are familiar with our products, Slim Biome, OPTIBIOTIX. That's the same product, OPTIBIOTIX, we have to use in some of the South Pacific market because you can't use the word slim in some of your products. Lean Biome, Sports Biome, this is all about building the same product, okay, it's still Slim Biome, into the sports nutrition market. Well Biome is starting to build it quite nicely now. So we had the best sales over the weekend of Well Biome online. And then the second generation products. So these are looking really, really quite exciting now in terms of the second generation products. I'd love to be able to tell you exactly what's going on, but I have to be cautious on that. I don't want to damage our opportunities with some really good partners. You know some already like DSM, Firmenich, but there's some nice partners in the industry that I'm working with. So I want to go through the science a bit here, and I don't normally do this because I understand that what you're interested in revenues, but we'll come to revenues and partners shortly. But I'm going to go through the science for Slim Biome because what we're seeing now is that there's lots of interest in products that reduce hunger and manage appetite. Okay, and this has largely been created from the anti-obesity drugs. And we see a number of opportunities being presented to us by a number of new partners who see that, given the anti-obesity drugs are quite expensive, given they have a number of side effects, that there's an alternative option for them. And we think Slim Biome may be an alternative option. And the beauty is I spent years talking about reducing hunger, reducing appetite, managing cravings, and the anti-obesity drugs come along and all of a sudden it's all in the market new. So the point I'm making here, the time is right to really make the most of the opportunity. I just want to show you what we've got in terms of the science. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly and I'll bring out a number of key points. So these are published, okay? We have 4 studies. 2 are published, one's undergoing preparation, and the 4th one just finished a week or so ago. And that was commissioned by a large US corporate, one of the biggest weight management companies in the whole of the US commissioned this particular study, the 4th study. The ones of 2 studies, comparable studies to actually launch in the marketplace later this year, starting next year. So just going through the studies in order. So this was used in Slim Biome Medical, or Slim Biome X3, as we now call it, double-blind, placebo-controlled 4-week human study, okay? This is on people who were given nutrition advice. They weren't told to diet, okay? Just said eat healthily. What we found, again, quite interesting here, is after 4 weeks, so green is Slim Biome, and this is consistently, grey is placebo. You got a reduction in hunger by 10%. A reduction in desire to eat. But look at this, a massive reduction in the amount of food that they took in. So we seem to have a product that reduces hunger, reduces desire to eat, makes you feel fuller, okay? But most importantly, reduces the amount of food that you eat, okay? That's the first study. The second part of the first study, we had volunteers came in. They came in and we said to them, we're going to give you breakfast, okay? So we told them not to eat, and we said we give them breakfast. We sent them into a room. Before we sent them into a room, we gave them 1 dose of Slim Biome, so drink a Slim Biome, or a dose of placebo. And we said to them, go into a room, and in the room was a table. They had cooked breakfast, you had pastries, you had pizzas, you had all sorts of fruit, all sorts of products. We filmed what they took. Once they took it, they went across and they put their food on the scales. We measured that, and then we count how many times they went back, etc. And what we found, and probably the best way of showing this is week 4, we did week 2, week 4, is that what you found was that the type of food they ate changed. So they tend to take less fatty food and less calorie intense food. So what this first study seems to show is that Slim Biome doesn't just change how much food you eat. Remember, previously we had a big reduction in the amount of food you ate, but also change the type of food you eat. So people are changing their diets towards a more healthier diet, just what you want in a weight management product. Okay. Second study, okay, this was similar 4-week study, okay, and these are studies because they're focused not so much on weight, they're focused on cravings and hunger, then linking that to weight, because if you can reduce your hunger, reduce your cravings, taking less food, you'll naturally lose weight, okay? And these were asked to take a calorie control program. What we found in here was that people did lose weight and they lost a lot of fat, okay? So 5.4% fat mass after 4 weeks. And most of this fat was around their hip and their waist. So not just losing water, as you get with many weight management products, you're losing fat, and you're losing fat around the waist and the hips. So again, quite an interesting outcome of the study. But probably more significant, again here, after 4 weeks, we saw a reduction in cravings for food, okay, sweet and savory food, a bit bigger than the other study, but you get that variability in any study with humans. But this is the interesting thing. You've got a big improvement in mood after 4 weeks. And we think this is because people are losing weight. They haven't got these cravings for food. They're not hungry. So they're looking better, feeling better, and not hungry. So that's quite a big indicator, really, in terms of a very interesting product. So that was the second study. Okay. Interesting, when we looked at the microbiome, Bryce said you're trying to create a product which creates a healthier diet. What we found was that if you check the microbiome at 0 and 4 weeks, if you look in this area here, Bacteroides increases, this area here, Christensen and Leeson. So they are bacteria that are associated with lean body type. So if you measure discordant twins, one fat and one thin, you'll find the thin twin will have a higher proportion of Bacteroides and a higher proportion of Christensen. So that's linked into lean body state. So it seems to be creating a lean body state as well as improving the diversity of the microbiome, which is beneficial to overall health. Oops, sorry, I've gone the wrong way. So this is the third study. This is an undergoing publication and we presented it at conferences. And this is the study we repeated for a large US partner. The partner is the biggest branded weight management product in the US. They wanted to have 2 studies rather than one from different universities. But this is a particularly interesting study because what we're trying to show here is how if you take just 1 dose of sugar, so what we did with 18 healthy adults, so this is measuring the glycemic response, okay? And so there's an international protocol for this, which involves 10 people. We used 18 people, so roughly twice the amount that's actually needed, just in case people dropped out. And so they ingested 50 grams of dextrose, which is sugar, and 50 grams of dextrose plus 3 grams of Slim Biome. So 3 grams of Slim Biome is the dose that we use in one of those Slim Biome sachets. And so what you can see, you get an impact on the glycemic response. So you don't get these peaks and troughs that you do typically when you're taking in sugar. You get the insulin response. But interestingly, again, if you compare the dextrose to dextrose plus Slim Biome, what you find in terms of Slim Biome, this is after taking 50 grams of sugar, which is about 12 teaspoonfuls with or without Slim Biome. You get lower feelings of hunger, that's also significant. You get higher feelings of fullness, and you get a low desire to eat. So these are all really important trends. And what you're seeing across all our studies is that you're seeing that Slim Biome reduces hunger, reduces food cravings, starts to control appetite. As a consequence, you eat less and you change the amount of food you eat and you lose weight, okay? That's the story consistently across 3 of those studies. And this is an interesting one. So what we thought we'd do, if we take some products that are on the market, so we take a range of products, just one of them, okay, and we measured the viscosity and the changes in the gut, okay. So if you take Slim Bio and Slim Fast and measure viscosity over a period of seconds, okay, you can see that the viscosity does go up, both the Slim Bio and the Slim Fast. If you add the 2 together, you get much higher viscosity and you get a lower passage through the gut. That means you will feel fuller for longer. So this would be, and so the reason we're doing this is to create evidence to share with partners and say, well, look, guys, if you're selling Slim Fast, if you incorporate the Slim Bio into Slim Fast, you've got people will take it and they won't feel hungry and they'll actually not crave food for a long period of time, so they'll feel fuller for longer. And so we've got a whole range of these that we're working with partners on. So another good example of where the science starts to really impact upon commercials. I'll let you have a look at that while I have a drink, but this is just a quick comparison that we've done of Slim Bio and the GLP agonists are the anti-obesity drugs. And I'll just pick up the main ones really. No side effects, but there's quite a lot of side effects with the anti-obesity drugs. We actually seem to be able to reduce weight loss by reducing fat. There's a number of, and certainly the Sentinel study that was produced showed that people who took the anti-obesity drugs didn't just lose fat, they lost muscle. Okay, and that's seen as quite a concern because these people are quite rightly, because the way the drug works, they're reducing their food intake. But if they've got poor diet, then they're eating less as a poor diet, and they're reducing their fat, but also their muscle. And we seem to be actually having a positive impact in terms of the gut microbiome and a positive impact in terms of changing the amount of or type of food people eat. There's obviously a big cost comparison. So typically these drugs cost £175. So the idea I'm showing you this is not to say we want to compete in the same marketplace as those drugs, but we think we've got something that can be used as an alternative for those people who can't afford the drugs, can't take the drugs for those particular, because they have side effects or for a whole range of other reasons. Maybe they don't want to take them, they want to take drugs. So we think we've got a lot of interest. Well, we have a lot of interest in these products as a consequence of the interest in the anti-obesity drugs. What I want to do now is just talk about the progress we're making internationally, okay, and how we're building a global brand. And I'll give you some indication of the revenues that we're starting to get through in some of these areas with some of our partners, okay. I start off with Asia Pacific, and then we'll then go through to India, and we'll go through America, and then we'll go into the e-commerce. I hope you find this interesting in terms of how our strategy from a year and a half or so ago, we said we want to go into these areas and build the e-commerce, build up sales in these areas, and how we're starting to deliver results. Okay. So first of all, Optifarm, well-known partner of ours, well-known in Australia. It is a big brand, honestly. It has a brand called OptiSlim, which is the category leader. And this is some examples of the products that Optifarm have. And I think that's Chemist Warehouse. But they're involved in over 24 pharmacy chains. They're also involved in Costco, both in Australia, New Zealand, and increasingly in Thailand, and looking to take their products, including our ingredients, into America as well. And this is their premium product, okay? OptiMan. They have an OptiWoman, an OptiVegan. And I show this because I mentioned earlier about the science and where the science is important and also getting regulatory approvals to make health claims. And these make a big difference. So these, the health claims they have on their pack, okay? Here, okay? OptiBiome, so OptiBiome is the same as Slim Biome, but we can't use the word slim in some of these products, okay? It reduces hunger, reduces cravings, improves the gut microbiome. So the science and the clinical studies are there, not just for the sake of doing science and clinical studies. They allow us to get the regulatory approvals that allow us to make the health claim. Without this, we've got to compete on marketing. That becomes very, very costly. If we can actually compete in terms of our science and show real differentiation, then we want to win it, but it takes time. This is also an interesting development by OptiBiome. They've got a healthy meal option. So these are ready meals, okay? And I hope to take some of these into the UK and some are online on particular stores. So what they were finding that people, this is quite common, people who buy the ready meals, they take in the healthy options, so they're quite low in calories, 90 calories. They're taking the meals, but they still feel hungry afterwards. What they've done quite cleverly is added a sachet of OptiBiome, the Slim Biome, to each of these packs, okay? So people take the healthy meal, they open it up, they pour the OptiBiome onto it. As a consequence, it reduces their hunger and cravings. And again, you can see here that the claim, the health claim we can make on these packs. So they're in across Australia and New Zealand. They're looking to extend them again into America. We'll be looking to take those into the UK and an online store. And we like this idea in terms of a Slim Biome or OptiBiome sprinkle that you can use, which has no flavours in it, on a whole range of products. So this is probably worth about $250,000 plus at this moment in time, and this year. Maybe slightly more, depending on. So you're probably talking about 0.75 to 1 ton per month in terms of use of Slim Biome, and it varies depending on when and Costco places an order, because these things come intermittently. But that's all taken from stock. Apart from, funny enough, we supply these direct as a final product direct to them, these sachets. So this doesn't include these Slim Biome sprinkle. Okay, it includes the ingredient in the meal replacement shakes. So that's starting to build quite nicely just in that one company. But again, just to mention, we had a big stock build up. And we're just taking that down now bit by bit. So once we clear that stock, you'll start to see these sales coming through into the OPTIBIOTIX sales. And so this is Asia now. So we've only went to Asia the last 6-12 months or so properly. And we're doing that via our agent called NutriConnect, who are really making a really good job of this. And you probably recognise that I've been out to Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, etc. over the last couple of months, and also to Indonesia. And the reason we find these markets quite exciting is that they are high growth markets. We often have got very high populations. So Vietnam population of 100 million, Indonesia 275 million. So really big population. So what you want to be focusing your products on are those markets where you have high growth, and you have big population. So that's where you will look to get the return. You can start to see the products. Many of these are just being launched. CDC have been around for a while, but they've only really, the support of NutriConnect, really started to move. Most of these, with the exception of the Vietnamese one, are larger drinks. So they're developing a range of drinks, where there's orange or chocolate drinks or berry drinks. So we're starting to see this come through. So again, for year one potential, you're probably looking at 125 to 150k just in year one. We see that building into about 500k per year. And if we're really lucky, particularly in Indonesia, we could get to the million mark. So you can see why we're moving into these particular markets. And you've got, considering you have to go to these markets, get regulatory approvals, which takes 6, maybe sometimes 9 months. We're making a lot of progress in quite a short period of time. India, I just want to go through. People are largely familiar with Apollo, but also with a number of other companies in India. So that's starting to build quite nicely. Apollo is an interesting one. So they have our shakes, and they have our. So we have these made for us in India, okay? And they have these shots. It was interesting when we launched with Apollo last year or so ago. When people went into Apollo, they bought the products, and they had a big increase in the number of customers go into Apollo as part of the Go Figure launch. They brought in new customers. But most interestingly of all, they had 87% of customers made a repeat purchase. So they have a bit like we have in Tesco's or Sainsbury's or on your club card, so you can tell who's buying again. So 87% repeat purchase. That tells you've got a good product, people coming back and buying it. They've also created a new marketing idea. So rather than a bit like Muscle Tech and MyProtein, they're putting Lean Biome into their whey protein products. They're actually selling whey protein products themselves. This is Apollo. They're actually selling the shots that go with them, and say the shot plus a whey protein product is better than a whey protein product by itself. So again, you know, as you go to these countries where you've got Optifarm with the little sachets on the ready meals, or where you've got Apollo linking the shots to the whey protein, it looks quite, it's some really good ideas which are going to take ourselves into other markets. So the key one here now in terms of the new product launch. So this is some examples of what Morepen are putting together, a simple, weight management made simple product. These aren't finalized yet. These are some ideas, and these are the 5 products, 5 different flavors that they're launching with in H2. Looks like July, but knowing the way things work, it might be a month or so later. And these are the numbers, okay? So this is based on Morepen's sales forecast, but I haven't given you their numbers. I've given you our numbers based on it. I'll go through this and then I'll have a note of caution, okay? Whenever you get forecasts from a partner, generally speaking, if you're sensible, you'll halve it, okay? But just keep that in mind. Didn't mean to say it will be half, it could be less, it could be a lot more, and we have a lot of confidence in Morepen. But just a touch of caution when investors may be taken on board in a year's time. Where's this? Just keep that in mind. So this is the revenue potential based on Morepen's sales forecast, okay, for us, okay, for OPTIBIOTIX. So this is selling the final product, okay, 1.2 million, 2.7, etc., plus the 5 years. So we don't really know, as I said earlier, whether it'll be launching in July, which is the plan, or be delayed a couple of weeks or so. But that will determine what we get in terms of the first in 2024, okay. But the ready place is substantive, probably our biggest order ever for in May, okay, so we're really well underway. But as well as selling the final product, we also sell the ingredient. This is back to the point I made earlier. If you sell final product, you have a double sell. You sell the final product and you also sell the ingredient, in our case, the manufacturer, CAG, which goes into that final product. You get a double benefit, okay? And so these are the numbers, and these are the profit we'll make from those, okay? So again, that looks like an interesting customer. And these sort of customers, if they materialize these sort of numbers, they'll be transformational for the business. What you need is not just one of them, you need 2, 3, or 4 of them to make sure you mitigate the risk. And I'll show you what we'll do next, okay? So the US, very difficult, the US market. It takes time. We've got a large pipeline there. iAbate with Muscle Tech product has come before very, very quickly. And what they're doing very, very nicely is they're using science, our science, to differentiate their products in a crowded marketplace where, you know, whey protein, in essence, is, you know, fairly commoditized. So people selling whey protein products have some difficulties. You have to build it on the branding and also sell it on terms of the science. Okay. Similar, but not in the US. So MyProtein in Europe, and they're moving into the US. I wanted to show you this to link back into sports nutrition. They haven't really differentiated our product, okay, other than the brand. They haven't really brought out the science on the MyProtein Impact Diet Lean and Breakfast Smoothie. But we're getting some great reviews, okay, on the website. And what we also found was that they had a big uptake in new customers. A lot of younger customers were going and buying this product. But the biggest challenge you have is that without that differentiation, how do they know the benefits of lean biome? So what MyProtein are doing, they're undergoing a marketing and rebranding of our products. And what you'll find is a consequence when you go to the website, some of these products won't be available because they've got new branding and they're using an existing product before they rebrand and relaunch. And this is the US corporate. I mentioned earlier that we've got Morepen, and we need more than just one particular company, those sort of numbers. So this is a really big US corporate, okay? And I went out there a month or so ago and we agreed a global launch, okay, verbally, okay? We haven't agreed it in terms of signing an agreement. But that's the way many of these US corporates work. But global launch is very, very complex. So you agree with the vice president, then passes it to his team. They go to the regulatory environment in each of these areas. They go through the requirements in terms of the financials. They go through a whole range of areas. And they all use their own contract manufacturers. And the problem with that is that you're working with a contract manufacturer and the global corporate. So you've got a three-way conversation going. But as I mentioned earlier, in America, you tend to sell ingredient, and these are sorts of revenues that we will get in terms of selling these ingredients between year 1 and year 5. So the idea is that will be launched at the end of this year, beginning of next year. I suspect it'll be beginning of next year rather than the end of this year. This is a different global corporate to what I mentioned earlier in terms of weight management and brand, but this is looking quite interesting. So all ingredient principle going through the process, but again, as I highlighted here, there's no guarantee into the product on the shelves. But the key point here, I guess, is this is a big global brand and it's going global with our products. Okay, so that will be an interesting opportunity for us. Just to finish off a couple more slides then, and we're getting near the end of the presentation. I just want to show you what we're doing in terms of e-commerce. Doing really well in terms of Amazon UK. This is being led by Shearers. And so we've got our own website. We're going to Amazon, expanding into other areas in terms of Amazon Germany, Amazon UAE, etc., Amazon India. But what you're finding is, again, the same story we said previous, is that we've got a big increase in the number of Prime subscriptions, okay? So we're getting a lot of loyalty attached to this brand. That's what you want when you advertise online. Typically, and when you go online, it costs about £100 to bring in one new customer. So, of course, if you bring in one new customer and the customer buys £40 worth of products and doesn't come back, it's a loss. If you've got these customers come back time and time again, that we're seeing with and with our products, it's worth the investment. Okay, that's what we had to work out initially. And so you've got 179% increase in the number of Amazon Prime subscriptions over the last, well, this is from May the 8th of the month before, okay? And as you can see here, we've got Amazon Choice for our gummies, which are going extremely well. China, again, going well. We're averaging now, we had a couple of months in October, November, sort of 30, 40K. Now we're averaging 20 to 30K. We're moving more from TikTok to Tmall, which is Alibaba, because the cost of bringing in new customers to TikTok was just too high, okay? And what we're focused on, very much profitability. And what we find with Tmall, we get more customer returns, okay? We're adding Slimbiome X3 to our Chinese market, and we're introducing the Indulgent bar. And the plan is to sell Slimbiome X3 to our partners in Ready, our agents, at £60 per box. So you can see a decent margin there. Live in Amazon UAE on the 13th of May. We're all set up for Amazon India. We're just waiting for the products to be coming to store and then picture them and then get them onto Amazon Prime, and also for the US, but ready on Walmart and US. So lots of things underway in terms of not just for Slimbiome, but also for Wellbiome. As I said earlier, Wellbiome is starting to take off now as well. This is just some of the potential for e-commerce, okay? So this gives you an example of where we could be in terms of the UK, 200K, Asia, only started it October, November last year, 300K, UAE, US coming through, okay? We haven't mentioned India, Asia was in the Asia. So that's looking quite nice. So a big increase in 2023 in this area. And you can see in terms of e-commerce, an increase, 2021, 2022, more or less the same. Then you have the Shiraz effect, as I call it, big increase, and that will keep on going quite nicely. So you're starting to see an effect. And I'll let you look at that for a second while I have a drink of water if I'm drying out. And what I'm just trying to show here is the strategy we set out a year and a half or so ago was investing in e-commerce, investing in Asia, investing in America. And you can see in 2022, okay, with B2B, Okay, going right the way to 2023, we had an increase, then stabilizing. But look at the rate of increase in the US between nothing in 2022, okay, but USA and India, a little bit in 2022. 2023, increased B2B. Well, first signs of action in the USA in 2023. Then in India, a little bit of interest, and also in terms of growing in e-commerce. And as you go to 2024, you've got a big increase in India, okay, a big increase in e-commerce. So you're starting to see the plan coming into action, okay? That shift from selling ingredients to selling in these different markets and growing the business. This doesn't include the license fees that we get and a few other bits of revenues as well, okay? And that's the first generation. Of course, we've got second generation to come. Just in terms of the second generation, okay, so that's SweetBiotics. Just to remind people, we're having a phased introduction of SweetBiotics initially as a bulk sugar replacement substitute, and then we're followed by partner consumer products. We've got some really high forecasts from DSM Firmenich in terms of the launch. We're talking 100,000 metric tons per launch. And you're probably looking at 20 to 30 pounds per kilogram per product. Initially, I'll start off around about, I guess, 25 to 30, and then come down, might even go beneath them 20 as it gains volume. We're also working on a finished product with a large global partner for upcoming launch. And we're also working more recently with a manufacturing supplier who supplies caramels, who supplies, the sort of products like you might get in your caramel bar or in your Rolos. So a confectioner, if you like, spice confectionery market, and they're talking about 10,000 metric tons per annum. So quite a lot of things going on, but I don't want to give you too much detail. As I say, I don't have what I call a TARPA effect, where people go out and try to track down and front up these companies, pretend they're OPTIBIOTIC, pretend they're me, and create so many problems for us. It becomes really damaging. Then microbiome modulators. Look, this is really a time for the eucalyptus products. That's going very, very well. Publications, joint DSM Firmenich publication, and really looking quite interesting. And we're looking to build we've got a number of marketing materials we'll be releasing shortly, which I think will be of quite interest to investors. I did write an RNS a month and a half or so ago. I held it back because things were changing almost week by week. And so when I was producing something, it was almost out of date. And so I held it back, but I'll do something over the summer as these things start to settle down and materialize into things that are substantive. And so in summary, what I think, why have things changed? Well, first of all, markets have changed, okay? We've got this interest, as I alluded to earlier, in hunger and appetite, okay? And so Slim Biome now has become a lot more interesting to people, right? Because people are aware that by reducing hunger, reducing appetite, you can impact on weight loss, okay? The second thing, the microbiome and gut health was on the margins and now become mainstream. The third thing what we're seeing is lots of interest in the high protein, low sugar snacks, particularly our gummies and our bars. So they're looking quite interesting as well. And we've got a number of bars coming out, which I think you'll find tasty as well as functional. But of course, we've also got the sugar replacement interest and from the issues with sucralose, etc. But also, we've changed our approach. So we focus more on e-commerce, okay? We focus more on the Asian markets, and we focus more on final product, okay? We've been able to, we're at the stage where our science now allows us to make really strong health claims on packs, which is really attractive for larger partners. We've already picked up a number of international partners who are quite big. These are billion-dollar turnover companies, but we want more, okay? And when we got 2, 3, 4 more, I think then we'll be in a really strong position. We've got a couple of those at a late stage, okay? Some of these agreements, and we've got lots of growth in the Asian markets. And as you saw earlier, lots of growth on e-commerce. On top of that, we've got second generation products, which I know I'm tempting you, and I know it's frustrating, but believe me, I don't want to damage the opportunity by creating a problem with our partners because of over-enthusiastic investors. And believe me, they phone up partners, pretend they're OPTIBIOTICs, try to gain inside information, and I just can't have that happen ever again. It's happened twice now to us, once with Optifarm and once with Tata. In terms of financials, we have a rapidly growing sales. We've got no debt. We've got a strong balance sheet. We've got, of course, assets in terms of skin biotherapeutics. We've got multiple plays in the emerging microbiome space. I've just got one final slide I just want to show you. So I mentioned earlier the interest in the high protein, high fiber, low sugar bars. We're launching these. They'll be on our online store this week and Amazon in a couple of weeks. So this is an indulgent bar. So it looks pretty good. It tastes really good. I've tried them when they were first produced about 6 months or so ago for us. That was without slim bar inside them. Really, really good. So they've got peanut, and they've got chocolate, thin layer of chocolate, and they've got caramel. Really, really good product. What I'd ask you to do is that when they're on Amazon, okay, buy some product and write a review on the product if you like them, okay? That helps us grow interest in Amazon in our products, gets us an Amazon choice, and really starts to help grow the sales in that market and consuming my products. So that's my final slide. Hope you found it interesting. I've sort of given you a fair bit, not everything, of course. I can't disclose inside information. I'm cautious, as I said, disclose too much on the second generation. But I'll pass back now to IMC.
Perfect, Stephen. Thank you very much indeed for your presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please do continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. While the company take a few moments to review those questions submitted today, I would like to remind you that a recording of this presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard. Stephen, as you can see, we have received a number of pre-submitted and live questions for today's meeting. And if I may now hand back to you and kindly ask you to read out the questions, give responses where appropriate to do so, and I'll pick up from you at the end.
Sure, I'll just pick and choose a couple of these questions. A number are repetitive. So one question is, what has happened to CTC? Are they still a partner generating revenue? I think you saw it in the presentation that CTC were a partner. They had one customer initially. We got NutriConnect involved, and we've been able to increase the number of partners that CTC was selling the product to. As a consequence, have an increase in the number of launches of products in the Philippines. So that will build quite nicely, but it built from a very low base, if you like, with very little activity from CTC. And that part, the challenge you have with multiple partners, multiple distributors, you really have got to sit to them, and update on a regular basis and really manage them very, very aggressively to get a return. Second question, there's a share overhang caused by financial to Seacon funds selling down their position. Why is OPTIBIOTIX broker not finding some to take this stock, remove the overhang and increase the share price? Honestly, I find these things a bit of a nonsense. We have a very, very good investor in terms of Finance Yorkshire, very supportive of OPTIBIOTIX. They don't sell down on a regular basis. They're not constantly feeding into the marketplace. They've been with us now for must be about 8 years. And like any investor, they need to take the most of the opportunity. They sold recently, and I was called beforehand to be told they'd be selling because they had, at the end of last year, they had a period where they were they had a number of their funds had lost money and looking to draw down a number of sales of stock in funds that had made the money to rebalance their funds. Totally entitled, like any investor, to sell stock. We're here as a company to help investors make money, whether that be a large institution who's held the stock for 8 years or retail investors. I have no problem whatsoever. We do sometimes work with these institutions if they come to us. Often they'll be very, very sensible and sell into the marketplace. And I have every confidence in Finance Yorkshire, and I've known them personally, and the plans manager, finance director for years and years, and he's a friend as well as a investor. So they're always very, very, very good to us. Let's try to think. Okay, a good one actually. Optifarm have ready meals with a sachet of OptiBiome. Is this sachet strategy successful? Can it be rolled out at other partners' locations? Good question. I've partly answered it in the presentation. The answer is yes, as part of our move forward. In fact, we've looked at different sachets. So you can either have the small sachet like they're using as a sprinkle to add into a range of products. That sometimes doesn't work if you want to add it to a drink. So you might maybe want to add it to a drink. So for example, if you've taken a protein drink, or you've taken a drink into the gym, or you take a drink into work, and you add to it. So we're looking at maybe more narrower sachets. So you can pour it directly without losing a lot of powder. But it's something that we will take forward ourselves, and it's something that Optifarm will also be taking forward across different markets. I alluded to, particularly to the US, but it looks like a really good product. A question here about lean biome products in stock with THG as the head group, and I think I alluded to earlier. So what you've got, and I'll go through this with the head group, but it also applies to Holman Barrett, is that in the past you had a market in terms of weight management, which was very much a separate part of the retailer, okay, a separate part of the shop. Now, what you're finding is that people are moving away from just weight management products, that health and well-being products become part of that. So as a consequence, what many companies are starting to do now is rationalize their offerings, but more importantly, they're starting to rebrand their products to bring out those products that are healthier in terms of helping you lose weight. That's why I purposely tried to show you that our products tick all those boxes in terms of helping reduce, helps to manage a person to reduce the amount of food they eat, but also importantly change the type of food they eat, so they eat healthier food, and the consequence that improves their microbiome. So what you've got is that they're rebranding, they're bringing out a different range, a wider range of products. The consequence, they are sometimes not restocking with the original product. So that looks quite, we speak to the head group on a regular basis, and Holman Barrett, and we think that will be a really good opportunity for us going forward. So we seem to be in the right space at the right time. Quite a few things on Sweet Bartics, which I've covered off. A couple of questions here on probiotics, asking one quite aggressively in terms of the lack of information on probiotics. Look, I need to be open with you. I'm not the CEO of probiotics. It's a separate company. If you have any questions in terms of probiotics, you need to submit those directly to either Walbrook, who's their investor relations company, or to probiotics themselves. But probiotics it's going extremely well. As I touched on earlier, it's probably one of the most undervalued stocks in the whole the stock market. But I take the point that investors just need to be updated and made aware of how well it's doing and how undervalued it is. I think that's it for me in terms of questions. I try to pick as many questions as I can, which reflects a balance. There's lots of duplication, but I hope you found that an interesting presentation, and the response to questions was helpful.
That's great, Stephen. Thank you for addressing those questions for investors today. And of course, the company can review all questions submitted today, and will publish those responses on the Investor Meet Company platform. But before redirecting investors to provide you with their feedback, which I know is particularly important to yourself and the company, Stephen, could I please ask you for a few closing comments?
Yeah, I think I, like many investors, remember I'm the biggest individual shareholder. We've been through these peaks and troughs in terms of the share price. You've been through peaks and troughs in terms of sales. It's been quite a difficult market, particularly with Brexit, COVID, Ukraine, etc. It's a very volatile world. But I just, when I look at it now, I think we really are at a inflection point in terms of, and the evidence I've just presented to you in terms of the products have got, particularly in terms of the first generation products, got the human studies, they've got the IP, they've got the regulatory approvals. They're now increasingly attracting the bigger partners. And on top of that, we've got the second generation products to come, and just seeing just a couple of examples of the potential revenues from some of these bigger partners, if we can get them to deliver to their forecast, which will be our focus going forward. So a big opportunity for us, and a big thank you to investors who stuck with us through thick and thin, but now I think we're on a good path, and hopefully 2024 in particular will show a couple of really interesting opportunities coming to the fore, which is looking good.
Fantastic, Stephen. Thank you once again for updating investors today. Could I please ask investors not to close this session, as you will now be automatically redirected to provide your feedback in order that the board can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments to complete, and I'm sure will be greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of OPTIBIOTIX Health PLC, we would like to thank you for attending today's presentation, and good afternoon to you all.